Hello and welcome to another video from EarnPED.com. I am StevieB, happy to have you all with us today. I'm here at the beautiful Cape Corinth on planet Calypso. I came back from Next Island to take care of some business prior to Mayhem. Today I want to talk to you guys about part 2 of a 2-part series I started a few weeks back. Part 1 was about increasing your chance of getting a critical hit. Part 2, today, I want to talk to you about increasing your critical damage. Now, in the last video, you may remember, I talked about increasing your chance of getting a critical hit, and this is something that has been very hard to do in game for a very long time. We have different options when it comes to increasing the damage that is done when we receive a critical hit, which is what we'll talk about today. However, up until very recently, it's been very hard to increase your chances of getting a critical hit to begin with. This is one of the things that I love about the Easter Ring 2022 that I recently purchased. It is the first and only item in-game that allows us to max out our chance of getting a critical hit at 5 percentage points. Now, previously there were items that would give you some chance of increasing your critical hit. So Modified Viceroy comes to mind. Modified Viceroy would increase your chances of getting a critical hit. Deathbringer's Crown, which is exceedingly rare and valuable unlimited item, would increase your chance of receiving a critical hit. However, it was only by about 1%. Now, Ares Rings would increase your chance of a critical hit to some extent, not a lot, anywhere from about a half a percentage point to just over 1 percentage point, I believe. And there were some event rings, some left-handed rings, that came out over the past 2 to 3 years that would increase your chance of getting a critical hit 1 to maybe even 3%. I think the highest one up until the Easter 22 event was 3.5 percentage points. We also talked in the last video about how you can increase your chance of getting a critical hit by using AccuStim pills. So the max from the item side is 5 percentage points, which is what the ring does. From the action side, from the pill side, it's 4 percentage points. So if you run AccuStim 15, you would be maxing that out, because AccuStim 15 gives you 4 percentage points of increased critical hit chance from the action side. AccuStim 10 does 3% or 3 percentage points increase, and AccuStim 5 does 2 percentage point increase. So if you're going to be using things that are going to increase the amount of critical damage that is done when you get a critical hit, it's very, very important that you decide how you're going to get that critical hit to begin with, which is what we talked about in the last video. So for most players, that's going to be running AccuStim pills of some sort. That's probably going to be the baseline for just about everybody out there, including myself. And then from there, you build on your gear from the item side, going all the way to the extreme with the Easter 22 like I did, or using an Ares ring in combination with something like Modified Viceroy and other in-game items. So since we talked about that in the last video, I want to talk about ways we can increase the critical damage that is done whenever we do get a critical hit. So the very first thing I want to look at, probably the one that most of you are going to be familiar with, is if we go to the Mayhem Token Trader and go to Consumables, Devastim pills. Now, Devastim pills, these are the 10 milligrams. The 10 milligrams are going to increase your critical damage output by 40% for 1 hour. So this is the pill that most of you are probably fairly familiar with. They're fairly common in game and pretty easy to get your hands on for a couple of PED. So when you get a critical hit, if you have this pill running, whatever critical damage you do will be increased by 40%. So let's assume, for giggles, that we have a mob that has 1,000 HP, and you have a weapon that has 100 DPS. So it would take you 10 shots, not counting misses and evades, to kill that creature. But when you get a critical hit, we're going to be doing a lot more damage than normal. So let's just assume it doubles it. I'm not sure if it exactly doubles it. It might do a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not 100% positive on that, but let's assume it does. That takes your 100 damage to 200. Now, I'm ignoring damage interval altogether. I'm just using DPS as if that was the damage interval. So let's assume that the critical hit normally takes you from 100 to 200. Well, with this, if you have this pill running, you're going to increase that number even further by 40%. So this really helps increase that damage per peck through the roof. Even if you're not competing, even if you're not doing Gold Rush or Mayhem, this is super handy dandy, because you're able to not only increase your kill rate, how quickly you can kill, But by increasing your critical damage done when you do receive that critical hit, you're increasing your damage per peck through the roof, because it's costing you the same amount of peck for that shot as it does for a normal shot, but you're doing much more damage. So it's going to increase your damage per peck through the roof. That goes into what I've talked about before with your overall efficiency of your setup, not looking just at your weapon and the damage per peck of your weapon and your efficiency of your weapon, but looking at your entire setup, your weapon, your rings, your pills, your armor, your defense levels compared to the mob that you're hunting, your DPS compared to the mob you're hunting, compared to region, all that. It's going to increase the overall efficiency of your hunts while raising your damage per peck through the roof. Now, they also make Devastim 15s, a little bit harder to find, a little bit more pricey, and then of course we have Devastim FENs, which were part of the FEN event a couple years back, which would increase your damage by 60% for 1 hour and 30 minutes when you got a critical hit. So it doesn't increase your damage output just across the board with every shot you fire, but when you land a critical hit, that is when the output damage is increased. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking when they take this pill, it just increases their damage across the board by 40%. That's not the case. Only when you're getting those critical hits. However, when you're getting those critical hits, this is going to put your critical hits on steroids. And that's why if you're going to be running these pills, you need to be running AccuStim pills along with them. So if I'm running Deva 15s, I'll be running Accu 15s. If I'm running Deva 10s, I'll probably be running Accu 10s, Deva 5s, Accu 5s. Because I want to increase my critical chance, but once I've increased my chance of landing that crit, I want to do as much damage as I possibly can. Therefore, I want to increase my critical output. Now, as I said before, we do have quite a few items in game that will help us to do this as well. One of my favorites is Earthshocker armor. Very expensive armor. Usually goes for roughly 2,500% markup. So TT value multiplied by 25. Very expensive armor. However, when you have the entire set on, it increases your critical damage by 60%. Now this is from the item side, whereas the pill is from the action side. So if you were to use this harness, the full set of armor, all 7 pieces, to get 60% from the item side, and let's say you were to run Deva 10s that we just looked at, from the action side, you're getting 60 from the armor, 40 from the pill. You're increasing your critical damage by 100% just with those two things. Now, obviously the problem with Earthshocker armor, it is limited, it does decay, and as I said, it is extremely expensive. However, one thing I like about it is if we look at the protections it has, as long as we hunt something that does not do any of these damage types, the armor will not take any decay. The mob won't hit the armor at all. You're going to take all the damages if you're not wearing any armor. So there are very few select mobs out there that I can hunt in full Earthshocker armor where my armor will take no decay. It also provides me no protection, but I'm not wearing it to get the protection. I'm wearing it to get that extra critical damage of 60% when I've got the whole set on. I'm wearing it to increase the overall efficiency of my hunting setup and to help raise my damage per peck through the roof. So very rare armor, but very handy. This is not armor I would just put on for any event. This is not armor I would put on for just any hunt, because I only want to use it in situations where I'm taking very little to absolutely no decay whatsoever. So again, that is from the item side. Now, one of the ones that you're more than likely somewhat familiar with, the Ares ring. Now this is the Ares improved. Obviously most of you know that gives you 8% reload speed, increased critical damage by 8%. So by having this ring on, again from item side, when I get that critical hit, I'm automatically doing 8% more critical damage. It's not a lot, but every little bit helps. And the Ares ring is one of the few items in game that would give you an increased critical chance. The improved only increased your critical chance by 0.6 percentage points. So it was not very much at all. In fact, it was almost impossible to tell a difference. As you got into the better Ares rings like the modified and perfected, that went up. The Christmas 21 ring that gave you full 15% reload speed did do a little bit more. In fact, if we look on auction, which is one of the reasons I came to Cape Corinth to make this video, because I've got all the traders and auctioneers and stuff I need right here. If we look at the Christmas 2021 ring, it does give you the full reload speed from the item side of 15%. It increases your critical damage when you do land that critical hit by 15%, and it increases your critical chance by 1.5 percentage points. So this is a right-handed ring. There are some very, very expensive left-handed rings out there that go for $25,000 to $30,000 PED, $2,500 to $3,000. That will give you an increased critical chance of about 3 to 3.5%. So theoretically, if you had that particular left-handed ring, this would be a fairly good match for it on the right hand to give you the full reload speed, give you the rest of that 5 percentage points that you would need for the critical chance, and then to also increase your damage output during a critical by 15%. For the reasonably price of about $700 US, 7,000 PED. But if you're wearing a $2,500 to $3,000 ring on your left hand, $700 investment in your right hand isn't that big of a deal. So that being said, I want to show you guys one of my new favorite in-game items. Something that I have purchased and used myself. I will continue to purchase them and use them. And then we're going to talk about how you can get them and why they're so hard to get. First, let me introduce you to them. You might have seen them in my previous videos. These are my Salafa MK3 weapon sights. Now, I have 2 of them, and you will notice that they do all the things that a regular weapon sight does, giving me the skill modification and all that. But look right here, increased critical damage by 20%. That is an incredible amount of damage by itself, but I have 2 of them. Now, here's the cool part. Here's what you guys are going to love. This is my scope. Hold on one second. Sorry, I got a phone call. Didn't want to have to take that in front of you guys. So this is my scope. This is my long reach 4. Now what I can do is I can take one of my MK3s and I can put it directly onto my scope. I can put my scope directly onto my weapon, and then I can take my other scope, my other sight, and drag it directly onto my weapon. So I can dual wield my laser sights. So yes, they increase the critical damage by 20%, but that's per sight. So if I've got 2 of these bad boys running on my weapon, I'm increasing my critical damage by 40%. So I've got one on the weapon itself, then I put the other one on my scope, and then I put the scope on my weapon. It's awesome. They can be dual wielded, and you can do this with the Salafa MK1s or the Salafa MK2s. You can do it with any sight, but I prefer to do it with these sights because these sights give you that increased critical damage output when you do hit a crit. Now, to compare these side by side, I've got my Salafa MK3 over here. I've got my Salafa MK2 over here. We'll pull up Salafa MK1 off auction if we can. So notice that the 2 only has 77% efficiency, which is still really, really good, and does 10% increased critical damage. So if I put 2 of those on my weapon, I would have 20% increased critical damage. Notice the MK3, 80% efficiency, 20% increased critical damage, so therefore I would have 40% if I dual wielded them. If we look at the TT values, 85 PED TT for the MK3, 42 PED for the MK2. If I look on auction, none listed on Cali. Let's see if we've got any on Planet Tulum. Let's see about Arcadia. Apparently not. I believe the MK1 does 5% increased critical damage, so 10% if you dual wield. I'm not sure what the TT value is there. Now, what is interesting about these sights is that, yes, they are limited, so they do have a limited number of uses. The MK3 has about 121,500 shots. Now, if you dual wield them, you're only going to get 121,500 shots. If you use them separately, you're going to get 121,500 shots out of each. The MK2, I don't recall offhand how many shots there are, so I'm actually going to Google it real quick while I've got you guys here. So the reason these things are so cool is obviously the damage they do, but these were only recently discovered. What happened was Tulun had the blueprint drop sometime middle of last year. Let me see here. The MK2 has 99,960 shots. So the MK2 has 99,960 shots. The MK3 has 121,400 and something. It's just shy of 121.5. So Tulun had these blueprints drop last year. They were very, very hard to get to drop. A lot of people went to Tulun to get them to drop. And there was a blueprint for the Salafa Site 1, Salafa Site 2, and Salafa Site 3. Now, there were a couple of the Salafa Site 1 blueprints that dropped, a couple of the Salafa Site 2s, but there was only one of the Salafa Site 3 blueprints that dropped. And fairly recently, a second Salafa MK3 blueprint dropped. It was quite recently. I think it was in the past 3 or 4 weeks. And it went for an insane amount of money. Now, the thing about it is, these are not the easiest things in the world to craft. Reason being is this right here. These tinctures, however you pronounce it. They're needed to make each type of site, and they are very, very, very rare, very, very, very hard to get, and have quite a bit of markup. Most of the time, they drop from the CU Hoff instances on Tulun. They can also drop from creatures on Tulun, very specific creatures, but there just doesn't seem to be enough people out there hunting, specifically looking for these things, to produce a giant supply of them. So if we look on auction, the only one that's actually on auction on Tulun at the moment is the Zenback. I believe that's needed for the MK1. The Zohoro is needed for the MK2, and there's a different one needed for the MK3. And you can see from these markups right here, not cheap at all. 16,000% markup, 14,000% markup, and some of them, depending on which one you're getting, can go for quite a bit more than that. And notice you need several per attempt. And just because you have a crafting attempt doesn't mean you're going to get a crafting success. You could get a fail, you could get a near success, and when you get that near success, you could get back thyroid oil and nothing else, meaning that all the markup that you just spent on that crafting attempt went down the drain. So in order to purchase these, you're going to have to get them from one of two suppliers. My preferred supplier is Jack Ace Kingsman. He bought the original MK1, 2, and 3 blueprint set whenever it was sold a couple months back by the original person who owned it previously. What I love about that blueprint set is it wasn't just a blueprint set, it was all the data that came with it. So all the data on where the inputs drop, what hunters are out there running the instance, what hunters are out there actually farming these things from mobs that are not in the instance, and lots of information came with it. So it was more buying a business than just a set of blueprints. So Jack also happens to have a killer estate on ancient Greece. This is actually the waypoint for it. I'll put this in the description of the video also, so you guys can go check out his estate. I went and checked it out the other day. It's not finished being developed, but already it looks cool. He's already got some shopkeeper pads there with some other stuff in it. But if you guys are wanting these sites, that's the guy that is going to be your go-to source. Because if you just try and find him elsewhere, you're not going to be able to. He's got one of the only 2 sets of blueprints. I don't even know who has the other set, and they don't seem to be pumping these sites out. So far, Jack Ace Kingsman seems to be the only player in-game producing them, because he's got the only functional set of blueprints. And whatever happened to the other MK3 blueprint, I have absolutely no idea, but it doesn't seem like they're really pumping them out. So this is my go-to guy. This is where I get mine from. And you can message him in-game. You can find him in the user register. But if you're going to be on Ancient Greece, if you're going to be on Next Island, pop over to his estate and check it out. I got to talking to him about it, because usually when you buy an estate or a shopkeeper or a just shop stand, it's already pre-made. It's already pre-designed. But Jack Ace Kingsman, when he got his estate, was able to get a special deal where he's literally able to design the estate submit it to the development team over at Ancient Greece, and they're helping him build it out the way he wants it built out, which I think is really, really, really cool. And he's got a lot of really, really cool ideas moving forward with it. Super, super awesome. Really great guy. And I'm probably going to be ordering a lot more sites from him over the next week or two leading up to Mayhem, and I'll probably be ordering more from him during Mayhem, because these things increase my critical damage that is output. So imagine if I'm running the MK3s, I've got 40% increased critical damage item side. I'm running my Earthshocker, I've got 60%, so I'm increasing my critical damage 100% from item. And then if I'm running Devastim FEN for an extra 60, I'm increasing my critical damage by like 160%. That is an insane amount to increase your critical damage. Now, if we look at the buffs down here, we always want to look at where our buff caps are whenever we're considering how we're going to stack our buffs, right? So increased critical damage. The most I can increase my critical damage from an item side is 100%. So if I'm wearing my Earthshocker armor, and if I'm running my MK3 laser sights dual wielded, I've got 60% from the armor, 2 sights at 20% each, that's 100%, so I maxed it out on item side. And if I'm running Devastim FEN, I'm getting 60% from the action side, which is the max for action. So I'd be running at the max potentially possible of 160% increased critical damage. So when I do get that critical hit, whatever damage it does is going to be increased by 160%. That is going to raise my damage per peck through the roof. It's also going to increase the speed at which I kill through the roof. Now there is something interesting about the increased critical damage buff. And that is if we look at total allowed, we notice that it says 350%. I have never figured this out. If there's anybody in game who knows how to make this work, please, please, please send me in-game mail and explain it to me. Because we can only have 100% from item side. We can only have 60% from action side. If we go above that, even if we could exceed it, the game's going to cap it. Even if I could get 200% somehow from item side, it's going to cap it at 100. Even if I could get 80% somehow from action side, it's going to cap it at 60. Which means my overall cap should be 160 or less. However, for some reason, the buff itself says 350. I do not understand how you're supposed to capture that differential between 160 and 350. Maybe Mindark put that in at some point, thinking they were going to introduce other items that were going to increase critical damage even further, and they just never did. Maybe it has something to do with something that an official avatar can do to you, like during an event, like at a sweat circle. I don't know. But if anybody understands how to circumvent or get anywhere near that 350% total action cap, please let me know. Because I'll give you a good example. Where's run speed? Just with my left-handed ring, I've got 22% run speed. So if I do something like put on my Corona's jumpsuit, which gives me an extra couple of percent, it's going to go over 22% from the item side. It's not going to let me have 30% run speed or 32% run speed from item. It's going to limit me to only 25. And then if I was able to stack the right combination of pills on the action side to get above 35%, it's going to cap me at 35%. So let's assume I could max out item and action at 25 and 35. The total allowed is only 50%. So even if I could pull off 60%, it's going to cap me at that total of 50. I do not understand and never have understood why the critical damage cap is 350% for total when item and action are 160. So if there's anybody that understands that or knows why that's there, please send me an in-game private message and let me know, because obviously I would love to know that. That would raise your damage per pack through the sky. I can't even begin to imagine seeing a critical hit doing 350% damage output for a crit. And again, I think Mindark put it in because they had plans of doing something with increased critical damage that they just never got around to. But if anybody has a concrete answer, please let me know that via in-game mail. Now, there are other items in-game that will increase your critical damage output. These are the ones I wanted to showcase for you guys today to kind of show you some of the different things you can do in different combinations between armor, rings, sights, pills, stuff like that. And also to let you guys know about Jack, because we know who originally farmed the MK blueprints. That was well known. But whenever the original owner sold the business off, a lot of people never found out that Jack Ace Kingsman bought the business. So I've talked to several people who have been trying to buy these laser sights that did not know to get a hold of Jack. So I wanted to put that information out there for Jack. I also want to tell you guys about his estate just because I think it's really cool. He's getting to develop his own estate in-game, and he's getting to help design it. So be sure and check that out. If you guys are wanting to get some of these laser sights for Mayhem or just to have to go hunting, the MK2s are currently 850% markup. The MK3s are currently 950% markup. Now, I know that seems like a lot, but these things have incredibly low decay rates. So they're going to last you a very long time. Almost 100,000 shots on the MK2, 121.5 thousand shots on the MK3, and if you buy two and dual yield it, like I said, that's total shots. If you only run them individually, but you have to, that would be almost 200,000 shots and almost 243,000 shots. That is a lot of hunting, even if you're not in a competition. And like I said, raising your damage per peck through the roof, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. Now, for those of you wanting to figure out what 850 and 950% is the down and dirty way, just do it like this. Take the TT value of the sights. So the MK2 TT value is 42 PED. So 850%, we're going to take 42, multiply by 8.5, 357 PED each. The MK3s, 85 PED, multiplied by 9.5, 807.5 PED each. So yes, they are a little bit pricey. However, they are so worth it, especially in an event setting. Now, I'm not going to tell you to get these to go hunt level 3 exosaurs. I'm not going to tell you guys to buy all kinds of pills to go out and hunt level 5 Argonauts. I'm not going to tell you to be running Earthshocker armor and sights and pills out the wazoo when you're hunting curbs at Boreas. But if you're looking to increase your damage per peck through the roof, if you're looking to be a real competitor in competitions like Gold Rush, like Mayhem, then this is the kind of gear that you're going to need. Yes, it's expensive, but competing has always been expensive. If you're out there hunting something very specific like Molochs, doing the Moloch instance on Ancient Greece, going for that Titan armor, you've already got a high damage per pack, high efficiency setup, and you're looking to raise it even higher to hopefully increase your chances of getting that Titan armor or getting even more of that high markup, high demand loot, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to want in your arsenal. So that being said, I'm going to kind of wrap it up right there. If you're wanting the sights, holler at my boy Jack Ace Kingsman. Now, I'm going to do something I do not typically do in my videos. I don't like doing giveaways. And the reason I don't like doing giveaways is the same reason I don't like competing. EarnPED.com was not the first website that allowed players to do microtasks to EarnPED. We're not the only website that allows people to do that. And I have plenty of competition. I have plenty of competition when it comes to YouTube videos, the website, all that. And I've never believed in competing on the basis of price. Because, to give you an example, if somebody wants to use one of my competitors' websites simply because they pay out a little bit more for each microtask, then I would have to turn around, if I'm competing on the basis of price, and just raise my payouts. Well, we keep doing that back and forth until one of us just hits the button and raises the payout to 100%. And then we just pay the hosting fees and the domain renewals out of pocket, and then the players get all the money, and we're not actually being supported. We're not actually making anything. It's just there for you guys. And that's the problem with auction also. That's why I made a video saying, you know, I will sell my gear at the price I'm willing to sell my gear. If you're not willing to buy it, or if you can find a better deal, awesome. However, nobody has a right to tell me at what price I will sell my stuff. It's because when you play nutcut on price, and it's just who can put something on auction for the lowest possible markup, there is no winner. Even if somebody temporarily gets a really good deal that day, that's what ends up driving the price so low that the items disappear from auction altogether because nobody ends up making them. Look at what happened to Armatrix melee weapons. The markups are so low on them because so few people do melee, and because the people who do craft them in bulk looking for hops and just throw them on auction as cheap as they can, very, very few people are actually willing to craft Armatrix melee weapons. And I just think that's bad for the game, bad for the economy, and I think it's a bad way to do business. It's like insurance. Everybody who sells insurance wants to say, well, I can get you the lowest price possible on your premium. When I sold insurance, I would tell people right out the gate, I'm not going to get you the lowest possible price on your premium. In fact, I'm going to get you a fairly higher price on your monthly premium than what you're paying now, because I'm going to be sure you have the coverage you need. And when you actually have to go file a claim, I'm going to be sure the company stands by the agreement and takes care of you, and takes care of that claim, and doesn't just automatically deny it, give you the runaround, and keep you waiting 8 years. That is how you do business. So, in the same token, I will never take EarnPED and try and make it do all the exact same things that my competitors' websites do. If you guys choose to use EarnPED because you feel it's the best website, or because you guys feel that doing that helps to support us, we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you guys continue to watch the YouTube videos, as soon as they come out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as a way to continue to support us. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it, because there's always somebody sitting there waiting to hit that dislike button. So in that same breath, in that same vein of thought process, I tend not to do a lot of giveaways. However, I'm going to make an exception this time. So I have 2 of the MK3 sites. I've got 2 of the MK2 sites. When Summer Mayhem begins, I'm going to be using the sites. And I know for a fact I will hit at least 1 Hall of Fame during Summer Mayhem. Now, odds are, given the setup I'm going to be using, given the weapon I'm going to be using, I am probably going to hit several dozen Hall of Fames over Summer Mayhem. Based off my setup, the weapon, and how long I'm going to be running, I'm expecting to hit at least a dozen Hall of Fames, maybe more. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by burning the MK3 sites first. Then I'm going to move to the MK2s. When I hit a Hall of Fame in Summer Mayhem 2022, and the amount of the Hall of Fame exactly matches up with the user registration number for EarnPED.com for a registered user in my internal database, I am going to give one of the MK2 sites to that person. So let's say I start, and right off the bat within the first 20 minutes I'm using the MK3 sites, I hit a Hall of Fame, I see how much the PED value of the Hall of Fame was, I check the internal website database for EarnPED.com, and that number perfectly matches up with a registered user, then that person is going to get a full TT MK2 laser sight. If I burn through the MK3 sites and start working on the MK2 sites, and then I hit a Hall of Fame, and I check the PED value of the Hall of Fame and the internal registered user number of the EarnPED.com website, and it matches up to registered user, then whatever the TT value is at that moment, that user will get the site with that much TT on it. Now, I'm only doing that for one of the sites, not for both. So only one person's going to get it, potentially. Now, I will put a caveat in there. There is a potential that I can hit Hall of Fames that will not match up with a registered user. When you register to use EarnPED.com, every single user has a assigned user number on the internal database for the system. It's a version that only I can see. So, depending on when you registered, it takes, when you registered, time of day, location, name, all of that into account. And they're not necessarily in order. But with the way it is set up so that if I hit a Hall of Fame, any Hall of Fame within reason is going to be very, very likely to match up with a registered user. Not guaranteed. I can't guarantee it will. But it's going to be very, very, very likely. So, that being said, I want to make this interesting. I don't usually do this because it's not one of the things I believe in. I consider it very, very close to playing nutcut on price or raising payouts until there's nothing left. I consider it very, very close. But I think these sites are awesome enough that I am willing to take the risk that I'm going to hit a HOF right off the bat or pretty close and be able to hand this off to somebody who may not use items that increase their critical damage, or maybe has never tried it before, or maybe normally wouldn't spend the money to buy these kind of items. And I want there to be opportunities for you guys to get to see what using some of this stuff can be like, to see how it can affect your returns, your loot composition, your enjoyment of the game, all of that. So can I guarantee somebody's going to get it? No, I can't. However, based off this setup, this is the only setup I could really think of that would work to give everybody who's helping to support me through EarnPED.com the best possible chance of getting their hands on it while keeping it fair and unbiased. I can't control what HOF comes in. I can't control what the PED value of the HOF is. I can't control who registered when. I can't control what your avatar name is. I can't control where you're located, what day or what time you registered on. So I have no way to manipulate it so that your internal user number matches up with the PED value of a HOF that I happen to hit. However, I have a feeling I'm going to be giving away this site fairly soon after Mayhem begins. That's my hope anyway, because I really want it to get into the hands of somebody who can go out, use it, have some fun with it, and get to experience something they might not have previously experienced. So great value, especially for people looking to increase their loot composition, looking to increase their damage per peck, looking to increase the chances of getting that rare item drop. Some just really good information. But like I said, guys, remember, increasing your critical damage, it doesn't increase your damage across the board, only when you get those critical hits, which is why I made this part 2, because I needed you guys to understand getting that critical chance up to begin with in part 1. So be sure and check out part 1 if you have not already, because that's going to be equally important. Both of these videos go hand in hand. Increasing your critical chance helps, but it doesn't help you out if you're not increasing your critical damage. Increasing your critical damage helps, but not as much if you're not increasing your critical chance. And if you're going to be on Ancient Greece, stop by Jack Ace Kingsman Estate and check it out. It's really cool. I've actually got a couple of ideas. I sent him a list over. He's got a building in there. I was like, bro, you could put a Mulciber in here, and it would kind of be trapped, and it would kind of be by a revive, and people could just run up, and it would be like Zykion, but on Ancient Greece. How sweet would that be? Of course, it's not my estate. It's his estate. And I'm very excited to see what he does with it. So be sure and check out his estate. If you're wanting to get your hands on some of the MK2 and 3 laser sights, hit him up. You can find him in the user register. And remember, he's also got the blueprint for the MK1s as well. They are limited supply because the inputs needed to make them are very hard to get your hands on. So this isn't something he can just crank out 100,000 of them. This isn't something he can just crank out 500 of them. They're very limited supply, and not everybody in-game is going to be able to get their hands on them. So guys, I'm going to leave that right there. This has been part 2 of our series on critical damage and critical chance. I hope it has been informative. Be sure and hit that subscribe button. Be sure and hit that like button, because like I said, it's a great way to help support us, because there's always some troll I'm making mad that's just hitting dislike right away. And the faster you guys hit that like button, the more people see it, the more exposure the video gets, the more we can grow the community. I cannot tell you how many people watch my videos and then start playing Entropia that had never heard of it before. So we are growing the community, and you guys are a big part of that. You're doing a lot to help that out. Also, head over to EarnPED.com, because when you earn, we earn. It is by far the best way you guys can help support us. Like I said, I know we weren't the first. I know we will not be the last. We have plenty of competitors out there. The fact that players choose to support us through EarnPED.com means a ton to us, and we really appreciate it. We've got a lot of videos coming for you guys over the next couple of days. I've recorded well over a dozen videos that I have not published yet. I plan to let them out one at a time, day by day, leading up to Mayhem and then into Mayhem. And we've got a lot more content we're going to be recording for you guys. So guys, for everybody at EarnPED.com, sip, smack, y'all know the rest, and we'll see you with another video sometime tomorrow. Take care, guys.